All right, so ladies and gentlemen and everything possibly in between over on Sean Cross, welcome to another episode of the Anatomy Podcast. This time, which is, I think, actually it's different. It's fresh. Not often do I end up kind of like switching around my sleep schedule. That way we can have these sessions, right? So we can reach around the globe. After all, we've hosted Miss Mata from Malaysia, in which, well, basically we recorded the session a day apart, or with Makhluk from Jakarta, Indonesia, basically one of the biggest bands over there, simply said, I think about the same thing. We recorded a day apart. Bone Carver, the Voynich Code, Heirs of Hatred, really. That's closer to the region of the world that we are once again reaching out to tonight, that being Spain. Now, the Voynich Code is from Portugal, so it's a country right next door to Spain, but it's pretty close. It's in that same overall time zone. So, I mean, the last time we had the Voynich Code, which was the latest artist from that part of the world, it was midnight for them. It was like 9 p.m. to midnight for them by the time we were done with the session. And that was between two sessions. So not only did we record near midnight over in Spain, but we did that 2 different times. And we basically just split what is a 4-person band in half, right? We record 2 separate sessions, smash them together, and therefore you guys have episode 74. Now, of course, now that the tables have turned, and it's midnight sharp for me right now. Did not expect that to ever happen, but after all, I do think it's time, again, that if I'm wanting to reach around the world, tell the stories of all these bands from all these various countries, whether it be Russia, Spain, Malaysia, Europe, you name it. We're wanting to make the Anatomy Podcast worldwide. Every now and then, I think it's my turn to kind of take brunt of things, be pretty exhausted, even sound like a zombie during session, hopefully not too much like a zombie though. And hopefully by the end of it, we are nonetheless able to tell the story of another great band from across the planet. Now, this morning for the boys over in Spain, we are hosting 2 members out of 4 of Chains of Agony, which is a pretty on-brand Blackened Deathcore band from, I think, Seville, Spain, as opposed to Madrid, Spain, which is new territory. All I've really known is Madrid. I've understood Madrid to kind of be like the Manhattan of Spain, but the thing is, it's not like a massive, like skyscraper city. It's a little bit more down to earth, right? But nonetheless, it seems that since the erection, for lack of a better term, of bands like Bone Carver, the Voynich Code, Heirs of Hatred, Aimless, Cries of Saints, Awake Consciousness, that's definitely another one, as they are a good combination between Veil of Maya and Ginger that I recently found. Really, really good stuff. Well, it is come to my attention. The universe keeps sending me these artists, these bands from that side of the world. So, well, one day I hope that the Anatomy Podcast has a very, very consistent Madrid, Seville, Portugal, like Spain, Portugal, that whole, Spanish side of the world. And then, of course, one day venturing downward, just straight down as far as the equator, latitude, longitude, all that fun stuff. Just go straight down and talk to bands like All Misery from Mexico. That's definitely going to be something that we want to conquer one day as well. Now, boys, just to let you know, I'm not sure if this was intentional, but you are indeed muted right now. You don't have to be muted if you don't want to be. It's actually fun to hear the laughter and the chatter. Lets me know that I have a decent sense of humor while I'm a little bit sleep deprived. But how are you both doing this morning?
We're doing good, I guess. Yeah, thanks for hosting us.
Besides, waking up early, pretty fine.
Yeah,
and you're
good.
going to bed late. Yeah.
Yeah, no, seriously. But I mean, again, every now and then you kind of have to balance things out, because usually it's the other bands that are staying up until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, that's not completely fair to those other artists. Like them having to sacrifice their sleep and then trying to manage to tell their own story. Well, why not have it be the person who's asking the questions instead of doing the thorough thinking, as far as, just providing all these juicy details. But simply said, before we do get into the Anatomy podcast, which, with our live stream in mind, the first part of many live stream Anatomy podcast sessions that we will be doing from now on to support AZ local legend Paul Benson as he is recovering from a coma. Basically, he racked up a $50,000 bill in medical fees. So for every Friday from this point forward, and basically until we end up covering those costs, we will be doing a live stream podcast session. And because Friday night, more specifically, ended up being the prologue session, expect there to be many, many stories just from one venue in downtown Mesa, talking about the many great, bad, and terrible things that have occurred at that venue over all these years, or at least up until it ended up being a pandemic loss venue back in 2020 and shutting down until further notice. Expect many great episodes, many great stories to be told. And otherwise, we recently recorded a session with Russian slam band Agiomatic Dematerialization. In the near future, you guys should be expecting that to unleash upon the earth, per se. But after all, Agiomatic Dematerialization, they are preparing to go on tour. So it's going to be a little bit before we get that episode, unfortunately. But as far as I'm concerned, the opportunity in the first place to now expand the Anatomy podcast almost completely in Russian as far as dialogue too, and us using Google Translator during the conversation. It was really fun. It was awkward. It would have been awkward for most people, but I kind of preferred it because it reminded me of like the Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin interview. Unfortunately, we didn't have 3 adult dudes on shift to like actively translate what was being said in real time, right? Unfortunately, I'm not a world leader, so I don't have that budget. But I thought it was actually really, really interesting to see and hear these conversations being said in another language, as opposed to, well, one of the band members the entire time shouldering the conversation and translating for 3 to 5 other people. Bands are big sometimes. So I look forward to getting the other half of that podcast session done in the near future, once they are ready once they are back from tour and are ready to finish telling the first part of their story after releasing their debut full-length album, that being The Absolute Elimination of Existence. There's no existence left, apparently, with this album. And the album cover is gorgeous, all that fun stuff. Speaking of albums, as per tradition and suggested first by Brandon O'Neill of Uwugasm, Abadonia, and Vile Revelation, we have begun to do front to back album listening sessions in the podcast session with the band. This episode is no exception. We will actually be starting the podcast, technically, by listening to Chains of Agony and their newest full-length record, Imperium. I am very excited to listen to this record. The color palette is dark. It reminds me of Castlevania, right? There's a castle in there. I hope that wasn't too fucking obvious. But also, one can only imagine how this album might distinguish itself from iconic Ignite the Church material, such as, and not limited to, Shrine of Malice's Sheol, Shadow of Intense Melancholy, Enterprise Earth's Luciferus, Defame's most recent EP, Black Blood. There are so many different albums now in that catalog as it continues to boom. I mean, a good reference also would be Behind the Boys, which would be Lorna Shore's Immortal.
Yeah.
Probably the peak of Blackened Deathcore, to be honest. And I think that everybody in this call is anxiously anticipating what will be Immortal Disfigurement's first full-length record, King, whenever it unleashes upon the earth. I'm with you guys on that, I promise. And in the near future, I definitely hope to add Immortal Disfigurement in its entirety to the Anatomy podcast as well. Tell their story, kind of fill in the blanks between C.J. McCreary's departure from Lorna Shore and his entry into Immortal Disfigurement, a band name in itself, resonating and just embodying two of his greatest prior musical efforts, right? It's iconic. So I hope to host them in the future because I'm very much Ignite the Church friendly. I love Blackened Deathcore, especially when it's made by really, really good people. So here's to that. Cheers to that. So let's go ahead and stop presenting. And now we truly dive into the Anatomy podcast. Now, at this point in time, I have no idea what number this episode is going to be, because chances are I'm going to want to schedule a different session with the other two members of the band, the remaining members. That way we can tell their stories, kind of bring everybody's perspectives together in the modern day, like in the present time, in the present moment, just kind of right after Imperium has unleashed. But tonight, this morning for me, or this morning for them, tonight.
Yeah.
It's morning. It's really, really early for me. It's pretty early for them. We will be telling the story of vocalist Gonzalo, right?
Yeah, Gonzalo, that's me.
Gonzalo. And then one of their most recent addition to the band, actually, their bassist, right? Rafa.
Yeah.
Rafa is it. Yeah.
Sweet. Fantastic. I feel less white when I'm able to say names right. In the best of ways possible. It's like, yeah, I'm not Wonder Bread white anymore. It's okay. Like we're evolving over here. But like I said, we will be telling their stories tonight. We will be navigating all of their fans over on Spotify. And if I go over to their Spotify, let's go ahead and get a head count, right? We got 1,253 monthly listeners, now 1,254. Good stuff. Really, really solid band. I'm in love with both of you guys' logos. Really cool stuff. And I also noticed while we were listening to the album, going through your social media, that you weren't always Chains of Agony. So yeah. I look forward to learning about all of the special details that make this project what it is. And well, I hope you guys are ready to tell your story in as much detail as possible without actually, like doxing anybody per se, as we say over here in the US, dropping all the details possible. So starting off, right? We dig into the questionnaire. We dig into the people part of the podcast. This is kind of the Nat Geo moment for whatever number episode this ends up being between Gonzalo and Rafa. So go ahead. Obviously, I've said your names a couple times, but just for the sake of saying it, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us what you do in the band and maybe something outside of music that you do.
Okay. You start?
You start.
I start. Okay. I'm Gonzalo. Yep. I'm the vocalist. Yeah. I joined the band. Like I founded the band actually with Sergio, the drummer, and another guy called Habitat is no longer part of Chains. We called it like in the past Bleeding Society, because we had like 16 years old. Naming for a 16 years old is not always. Naming a band is not a good idea at 16 years old. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So we started like composing the stuff, but it was really, really, beginner's band, simple stuff. We just were having fun. And then Alberto came. Alberto is the guitarist, like the only guitarist that we have actually. and he joined before the release of Ephemeral Existence because we were composing that EP with our previous name, but it ended up being released with a new name. And yeah, most of the guitars of that EP are from Alberto, so we can say he founded in a way the band also. And yeah, since then, like, we've been like changing members, not that often, honestly, because Pablo, our previous bassist, like released the EP and he left. Then Rafa came and Javi left, but that's all. We are like I see it as a band of friends, you know, like we
It's a
live
brotherhood.
nearby, we hang out, we party together, and then when we are hungover, we start writing music. Yeah,
That's a good
It's
creative
kind-
process. I actually like that.
yeah, it's kind of vibe. And apart from that, I'm a software engineer.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, but most apart from that, I don't know. I used to skate a lot, you know, like skateboarding. Like for a long time, like 15 years ago, I started skating, and since then, I've been doing it. Yeah, so that's
Sweet.
yeah. So for me,
Yeah, so as Gonzalo said, I joined the band like in 2019, I think. Yeah, they just released the EP, so I started like working on the newer stuff, which is this album. And yeah, I mean, I was in a rock band. I was in a rock band, just friends hanging out and playing music. So nothing really important. We didn't have plans of doing anything with that band, really. So Alberto called me and told me they were looking for a new bass player, and yeah, I joined them. I basically started or really learned to play the bass because I was playing, but it was something really easy. So nothing compared to what we do in Change. So yeah, basically I relearned how to play, and yeah, since then I have been working with them. I'm in charge of writing the the orchestration,
Orchestrations, right?
part, the strings. Not only me, but also Alberto does some work there. And yeah, the drums are my part too, along with Sergio, obviously. But so yeah, I'm in charge of, apart from bass, which is something I would say trivial in deathcore normally, because there's nothing to do really apart from accompanying the guitar. I also do the strings and drums. And yeah, about me, I'm a father of a baby girl. And
Congrats.
thank you.
congrats. You sure about that?
Yes.
Oh,
Children are
I
a
haven't
great
slept
thing.
in like 3 days. Well, 3 days, 3 months actually.
Yeah, I mean, I sleep, 3-4 hours a day straight. So no, it's okay. Yeah, apart from that, I'm also a software developer, as Gonzalo. So yeah, we have like flexible work days. Normally, we can focus on the band also.
Yeah. So I mean, that's always a great part about modern day creative mediums, right? Whether you want to be a YouTuber or whether you want to be a musician, it is always such a luxury. It's always a treat to be able to have such a flexible and like, a backbone, a financial backbone that you can twist around, as opposed to just being, like slouched over and shit, just like, yeah, I got a 9 to 5 and then I kind of do my band outside of work.
Yeah, that
but
sucks, man.
you're like, dude,
yeah.
I know is I've been, I mean, not gonna lie, I've been farming 10-hour shifts, and I've been working I work that 5 days a week, and then, well, basically 10 days every 2 weeks, and then I have the weekends off. But at the drop of a dime, because of the company I work with and because of the reputation I built with them, like I can be like, hey, can I not work today? They're like, yeah, you're fine. I'm like, okay, and then I go back to bed.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Only thing that sucks is the pay, compared to most other jobs, which I'm now acquiring a new job. That should be a really good opportunity. I'm working $14.50 per hour right now, where like
that's way much more than here,
Yeah,
but it's America. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
The US dollar is definitely losing its value. So in essence, to a certain degree, most European countries and most countries around the world other than us are like way beyond the value of the US dollar by like a pound or whatever. Whatever your currency might be, most likely it's worth more than $1. So in essence, not really, but we're working on it.
Yeah.
We just gotta kind of boot out our walking corpse of a president this November, and then things should be better. But nonetheless, it is always a treat again to have a flexible job, because back in the day, it's like, well, you really want to be a rock star? Don't you need to work a job? Don't you need to work a 9 to 5? That way you can provide for your family. What family? I'm single. You'll have one eventually. Like, it's that type of stuff that plays into the nuclear family, as we call it here in America. Just wanting to have a wife and kids, and have a nice house and a couple of nice cars, solid
The
job
American
in the
dream.
office.
Yeah.
Yeah, the American dream fucking dead. I swear. But that's okay. It was never meant to last for that many people. Not really. So without getting too political, we bypass the more casual, like I would say still elementary introductions that you boys have provided so far. Just kind of a brief glimpse into what you're doing, what you've been up to. Gonzalez, you ended up introducing us to like kind of an overview of the roadmap of Chains of Agony and all that, what it was before. So now basically this is a very 50-50 thing. So this can be either one of you, but according to our questionnaire, or in reference to our questionnaire, what I want either one of you to do is go ahead and take us as far back as possible, take 10 to 20 minutes, and provide our audience, provide our listeners a roadmap, start to finish, in as much detail as possible, in how you ended up becoming, well, for you, Gonzalez, that would be a vocalist, that would be a lyricist, right? And then obviously a software developer, because that's important too. We don't want to just talk about your music. It's like, well, you worked hard with your actual career as well. So let's learn about that. Or with Rafa, well, let's learn about how you became a bassist. Let's learn how you got into guitar, how you became a father, because I mean, obviously the science, the chemistry is there, but that's not what I'm asking about, right? It's like,
the biological part.
It's like, what compelled you to be a father? Like, how did the stars align, But whoever wishes to start first may. Take as much time as you need, and tell your story. Tell your audience your story, people.
Okay, so I actually planned to be in a band when I started university. I don't know if it's called university there or it's college, or I don't know, but basically what you do after the high school,
Yes.
Okay, so it was in my head because I've been listening plenty of extreme music. Let's say I started with Melodeath, bands like In Flames, Opeth, and all that stuff. I really like that kind of music. Like you can see it in the album. In the album we have that vibe, I think, of Melodeath in some riff. So yeah, I have the plan in my head because I discovered, for example, Cannibal Grandpa, now known as Bone Carver.
Bone Carver, yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I discovered them with 14 years old. And I was like, yo, what the fuck? This is not In Flames for sure, but it's sick. What the fuck? So yeah, and I joined the university, talked with a friend, like he was joining a band, but it was kind of a rock band. They are called Maraña, you know. Yeah. So
It's a sick band name.
yeah, Maraña. It's yeah. So I was kind of jealous because my friend was gonna be in a band and not me. So I started like rushing learning vocals, by my own. Like what I did is, seeing bits of like Phil Boseman, for example, or in Dying Arms. In Dying Arms, like vocalist, I don't know his name, but it's so sick. Like the first vocalist that they had, I don't remember his. So
I gotta
yeah,
be
I
real with you.
started.
I don't know that band. Whitechapel,
Okay.
definitely no, but in Dying Arms, unfortunately not. We can go ahead and look that up though. That's fine.
Yeah, they are so sick. Like the hikes of that vocalist are fucking amazing. Like insane.
In Dying Arms, first vocalist. Okay. Orion Stevens.
Ryan Stevens. Yep. So that guy is ridiculous, man. Like his hikes are so sick. So I started seeing like bits of them and kind of mimic like their mouth position, everything, doing it by my own, like no teacher, no tutorials. And yeah, I ended up like kind of developing my own technique. So when that moment came, I asked Sergio, that is a friend, like he's the drummer, but he's been a friend of mine since we were like 5 years old, so a long time. I asked him, okay, let's start a band. And I also asked Javi. Javi told me no, like directly, like, no, you kidding me? No. Then I talked to Sergio. Sergio told me, okay, I'm in. And then when Sergio said yes, Javi came. You know how it goes. Yeah, so we were like seeing what kind of music should we play. We started playing like kind of groove metal, glam of god kind of shit, because we were kids. We didn't know like how to, make like really difficult riffs or orchestration or yeah. But I saw that that kind of music wasn't what I actually wanted to do. So I talked with them, and Javi proposed like to bring another guitarist to the band. That way I met Alberto, that has become one of my best friends. Like, and I was like a bit scared about it, because I didn't want like another guy, another unknown guy coming to my group of friends. Things can get really messy. But I remember like the first interaction that I had with him before a rehearsal, it was like he came to me and he told me, "Hey man, you like Shadow of Intent?" And I was like, "What? Oh my god, this is the guy," because not many people listen to deathcore here in Spain. Like in bands like Shadow of Intent in 2018 wasn't really popular here. But that guy was really into that shit. So I was like, okay, let's go, let's do it. Yeah, then Alberto, I saw how Alberto played, and it was phenomenal. Like I never saw something similar in my life, like with my eyes. Like he's always like, that kind of shit. So I told him, yeah, let's make deathcore, and let's try not deathcore, but I told to him like, let's try to do what we like, because we have a lot of bands in common, like that we like. Melodeath, deathcore, even death metal, pure death metal, like everything. And yeah, so he started composing. We recorded Ephemeral Existence like in probably 1 month, drunk at the studio. we were kids, man. Like we were so fucking drunk in the studio, because the studio was from a homie called Henry. He's the one that has produced this album also.
Okay.
And yeah, and then ended up like, I won't say sounding good, because
let me say, Henry was also learning how to
yeah,
produce,
how
so-
to produce. Yeah, it was like it was
Gotcha.
crazy, because okay, we learn, you learn, all good. Yeah,
Yeah.
go on.
Yeah, because the the entirety then, like every aspect, every bone in the body of Chains of Agony, well, let's just say it all moved forward together. It was all learning together as one thing, which is actually a pretty refreshing experience. I'm kind of hoping that in the near future that ends up being the thing for my own project once I have the time and the financial resources to devote to it. But that actually sounds pretty like humbling, right? Because you're working with someone for the first time and they're also working with a band for the first time. It's uncharted waters. And for a lot of people who maybe have certain expectations, maybe they're a little bit tight, right? Maybe they're sober during the recording process. It's, you know, they're like, dude, the fuck, I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing. Like they start stressing, they start getting frustrated. And well, depending on the people, that doesn't exactly get the heaviness out, but instead it just causes turmoil, causes people to want to separate. Like, dude, I can't even fucking record with you. You don't even know what the fuck you're doing. Instead, you guys are like, who gives a fuck? Like,
yeah, who gives a fuck? Because it's what we liked, you know? Like we didn't do that because of we want fame or money or whatever. Like we just like it. So we are having fun.
Not only that, but because you guys are all brothers already, the interconnected experience between producer, the final touches, and the band all being friends and well, all being trashed in studio, it just adds a little bit more spice to it that makes it Chains of Agony, right? So awesome. More specifically, I wanted to like kind of rewind a little bit more because you basically mentioned that everything started once you got into university, right? Everything truly kickstarted for you. You were able to invest more. You were able to engage more seriously with other musicians. And then that would eventually get you into what would be Chains of Agony. So you have bands like In Dying Arms. You have bands like Whitechapel with their respective vocalists. But throughout high school, junior high, elementary, like let's go that far back, right? What were some of the bands that you were getting into at the time? Who were the people that were getting you into those bands? Was it like a community thing, or did you have to find these musicians on your own? Like, tell us that. Tell us all about that stuff.
I mean, in high school, I was kind of the musical weirdo, you know, because as I said here, no one listens to deathcore or deathcore, death metal, metalcore, whatever, you know. They usually listen to reggaeton, pop, like all that stuff. So first band that I heard was actually Born of Osiris. And it ticked my head, you know, like, what? After all, in high school, what I listened the most was, it's actually funny because it was The Last 10 Seconds of Life. Yeah. With a
what a full circle moment there for Imperium.
Yeah, exactly, because I was touring with them like 1 year ago. Today, I guess. Not in 5 days, I started the tour with them, and it was a pretty sick experience. That's why Tyler is in the album, because he became a really, really good friend with me. Like he's lifetime friend. So
that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, The Last 10 Seconds of Life. I didn't really listen to actual deathcore, let's say. I was more kind in the beat down hardcore scene, you know.
Right. And that's okay. That's completely okay, because the thing is, we all have certain phases, certain genres that we end up kind of gluing to, if not forever, for a certain period of time. And I would say that kind of provides like different seasonings to the recipe that makes our music what it is, right? Maybe by listen, like say if you were to only ever listen to deathcore the entire time, well, chances are Chains of Agony, vocally speaking for you, would not be nearly as vibrant as it is. Maybe you're like, yo, I should add more lows to this, even though lows aren't my strong suit or something. And then it just becomes a completely different vocal effort with Chains of Agony. Instead, what ended up happening was you were invested into the hardcore beatdown scene, which really that's where the fucking grit comes in for me. Deathcore, metalcore, death metal, power metal, tech death, you know, all those complicated subgenres. Really, that's the energy to it, right? That adds the ambience, that adds the life to it. But hardcore beatdown, that's to me where you really, really, really get your oomph. Like if you can incorporate hardcore beatdown elements into your music, no matter what genre you are, that's the ass beater mechanic in your music. Like, needless to say, bands like Body Snatcher, they're not strictly deathcore. When I first started listening to them, I'm like, oh yeah, this is like kind of a mix between Spite in the Last 10 Seconds of Life. Like it's not strictly deathcore, you know. It's more or less like, you know, what's up, bitch? Fuck you. It's too fucking late, you know, all that shit. There's a certain spice to it. And it's really, really fun to see how many bands are like taking in different directions. Traders, right? From also a Florida band, ironically. They more or less have like a hip hop beat element, and their whole thing is making it as slow as possible, but also not making it like, you know, subwoofer shaking heavy. But they already do that without having to force it. So everybody has to find their niche, and most of the time you get your oomph from the hardcore beatdown element. So overall, I like that you actually ended up being involved in the hardcore beatdown scene when you were in high school. What are some bands that you still listen to from that genre?
From that genre, I usually listen, like, they're a new band, I think. Well, not a new band, but they released an EP recently. They are called Clench Your Fist. Do you know them?
Yes.
Yeah, they are fucking sick. I've been like listening their last release on loop lately. But from that, the last 10, because yeah, it's my you know, teen band. And apart from that, we are homies. Body Snatcher, I usually listen to them. They released something lately, right?
Yeah,
like
Murder
1 year
8.
ago. Yeah.
Oh well, yeah. They released a new single recently about fentanyl and about how the drummer's brother, I think, actually passed away from a fentanyl overdose, amongst other things.
Yeah, man, that sucks.
Yeah, it does. Fentanyl is a big issue over here right now. It's even leaking into the cities close to me, which is like really, really scary. People legitimately looking like zombies hunched over, walking down the streets and shit. Or dancing, trying to rip open a Taco Bell door. And you're like, yo, is he in like Fortnite or something? Like half the kids are like, he looks like he's Fortnite dancing. It's like, no, that's drugs, kid. That's not good at all. Like it's very sad to see. But let's see. For me, I mean, beatdown bands I could easily recommend to you. No Face, No Case.
Yeah, I know them.
Okay. Bound in Fear.
Paleface, Bound in Fear. I toured with them.
Oh,
I toured with Bound in Fear also. I know the guys, and they are really, really sick. Like,
good.
They are really good people. I love them, man.
Good. Hell yeah. Let's see, Bound in Fear, and then Pint Glass, because that's the other project that Ben Mason is in. Yeah. Let's see. Behind Bars is one I found recently. That's a smaller one for sure. I think they're based in Russia.
I don't know them. Behind Bars?
Behind Bars, yeah. Their most recent full-length album that they did.
This guy's right.
Hold on. I'll go ahead and look this up myself just to make sure. But they're pretty sick. I listened to their album recently, and I think I did. I don't know what happened. I think I deleted the stream. Okay. This is what their profile looks like.
Okay, this one. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
There you go.
Nice. I'll follow them.
Yeah. It's Hate Crib. Yeah, that's the album. That was a pretty good album. I think I was just making a transition from my older PC to my newer PC, and I'm like, I'm already trying to upload so much, and I am definitely planning to get them on the show sometime soon. I just don't know when, because they got something special going on for sure. So that's beatdown bands that you're currently listening to still. Any suggestions as far as like any new bands that are poking through for you, or are you kind of just like staying inside of your zone?
Actually, yeah. Like the guys from Flesh Mauler, you know them?
Ah, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, they are homies. Like he's the singer of old band like no longer existing Inceptions, you know, and the drummer of Hairs of Hatred.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they are
That's
doing slam chuggy sick things,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
they
Because I
also
remember. There
yeah,
you go.
you know, like local bands, like you know, in Spain we have Hairs of Hatred, we have Aimless also, we
Yes,
have Hollowborn, you know them.
Hollowborn. No, not yet, but I'll have to
Yeah, it's
look that up.
Blackened Deathcore. Like they released an EP, like pretty new band. Yeah,
Mountain Grief.
Mankind Grief, obviously, homies.
Mankind Grief, yep.
Contract,
Yeah,
Contract also.
they Mankind Grief didn't want to jump on the show. They're like, "No, we don't want to do that." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Oh
But
shit! I will punch them in the face. No worries. I will see them like next week.
yeah, I was like, "Well, "Hey, we should do that soon." They're like, "Nah, we're good." I'm like, "Well, oh, okay." Like,
Oh shit!
no
Sorry
explanation
for
or
that.
anything
Yeah.
either. That was like 2 years ago. I'm like, "Oh," but this actually looks pretty sick. 13 Blood Promises. That's another band.
Also from
I was
Madrid.
trying
Yeah.
to, yeah, I was trying to get in contact with them, and they just never replied. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
But
because they don't usually like they are not active in some way. You know, they play
right,
a couple of shows per year, and that's all.
yeah, fair enough. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the whole bunch of different acts where you guys are from. I think the biggest one though, Bone Carver,
Yep.
that's a bigger one, obviously, because they're signed uniquely to records. Um, let's see. Awake Consciousness is pretty big one to me. So the one I mentioned near the beginning, it's like a mix between Ginger and Veil of Maya. I know they're from Madrid, and I really want to get them on the show. They're like, yeah, of course. And it's just like, well, we're not making an album for a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay. But you know, we're just getting all that figured out. I have like 71 situations like that, 71 conversations with different artists around the world. Just like, yeah, I mean, we're making an album, but it's not ready yet. So once it's ready, then we'll jump on it fast. I'm like, dude, cool, let's do it. So
Wormed also. You know them?
well, you said what?
Wormed.
Wormed?
I don't know English. Wormed.
Wormed.
Wormed?
Death metal band from Madrid. Like they have toured the
Ooh.
entire planet.
Like
It's
okay.
WORMED.
Ooh, I have never heard of this. Well, that's actually a pretty sick logo.
Yeah, they are like OGs here in Spain. Death metal.
Ooh.
Along with Dulcet.
A bull set also. Yeah.
A Dulcet.
A drill said?
A bull set.
A bull said.
AVULSED.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, a Volst.
It's you know, old school death metal.
Okay. So a Volsed, and then yeah, these are Worm.
Yeah, brothers. Brothers till we die, man. Brothers till we die. You know them for sure, right?
Sure. I mean, hell, like Wormed, I think that's like one of the oldest looking logos I think I've seen.
Yeah.
In a long time. I'm like, hey, I can make that.
Yeah, but they are legends here, you know.
Sweet. I'll have to definitely look into them. So Hollowborn, Warmed, a Volsed, Fleshmauler, definitely reached out to them earlier yesterday, really. So hopefully I can get a reply from them soon. Mankind Grief, let's make something happen, please.
Yeah, I
want to
will
get you
check
guys
them,
on.
Yeah.
But man, just Madrid. There's something just gravitating me towards like this specific city, and it's like actually so cool seeing how many different iconic artists are emerging from the woodwork over there. But nonetheless, you know, we talked about your high school and like your time in high school, what you were listening to then, and you're like, well, it wasn't deathcore, huh? I'll have you know, it's hardcore and beat. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So how early would you say you got into like rock and metal in general? Not deathcore, not hardcore, not beatdown, not any of those subgenres, but when were you first introduced to like any major starter kit albums, like starter kit metal bands?
Okay, it was funny because I didn't pass through that process, you know. I usually listen to hip hop and all that stuff, and then I discovered Bone of Osiris, and I was like, okay, this is my shit, you know.
Gotcha.
I didn't went through Nirvana, through nothing, actually.
Sweet. There you go. Well, at least you didn't have to like go through the sacred gates per se, and just like, have you ever heard Smells Like Teen Spirit. You're like, huh, no. You just like jumped over the pearly gates.
Fucking bulb down. That's all, man.
Fair enough. Let's see. So more or less, we're pretty well introduced to your roadmap as far as like all the bands that you've gotten into, the genres that you jumped into, leading up to you then graduating from high school, forming Chains of Agony with the drummer, and then just proceeding from that point, right? We're here, we're now in the present, but that's just the musical side, right? You also mentioned that at one point in time you were actively skating. Let's talk about that.
Since I was a kid, honestly, like I took a skate, started skating, I fell in love, and I've been like, not every day, not every month, but whenever I have time, I usually skate. That's all, because it's good to exercise your body. And
It's good to be out. It's fun.
Yeah, I just love it. Like, there's not much to be said because I'm not a pro. I'm not, I just like it. So I hang out with homies and skate for a bit. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. So question 3, which would be the scene. Part A says, growing up, as you got more into metal and rock, or possibly even other genres entirely, did you have other people in school or in your local community who helped you push forward, or like just helped you keep engaged?
Not really. I only had a friend that I met like ending high school. That would be David. Like he's the brother. He's the brother from our drummer.
Yes.
That's my age. Our drummer is like 3 years younger than us. So yeah, his brother.
Not him.
You're older, yeah. Yeah, he's a dad. So yeah, would be David, and whenever we found a new band, we chat with each other. Yo, check this. This is sick.
Yeah.
He actually was the one that introduced me to deathcore, like purely deathcore. Like I don't remember the band, but we really love Shadow of Vincent.
Right.
That kind of shit, like Infant Annihilator. All that stuff that was popping up in 2016, maybe. Yeah.
So, okay. And if you only had like maybe a friend that you met when you were departing, when you were preparing to graduate from high school, get into university, devote to careers as well as music, it doesn't really seem like you are part of a music scene, because I mean, all the bands that we've hosted from Madrid have all said the same thing. Up until recently, the world of metal, deathcore, death metal, hardcore, beatdown, you name it, all the subgenres over in Madrid, it hasn't exactly been a big thing. It hasn't been a booming thing. But because of artists like Chains of Agony, Aimless, Bone Carver, Heirs of Hatred, Awake Consciousness, Flesh Mauler, all of these different projects, now there's a boom. Now you're becoming prolific without even really trying, which is always a cool thing, is when, well, you end up being the first one or the first set of different artists and bands that will eventually pass the baton to future bands and projects. So are there any local heroes or any bands that were kind of close to you growing up that are currently climbing the ranks or are at the top?
Yeah, I mean, there was one band called My Mom Dance Mosh. Pretty funny name. They actually were like the first deathcore band in Sevilla, like ever, I think. So the singer like started, organizing a little festival, like little, like I don't know, like 150 person, like venue.
Okay.
Something like that, like really small. And it seems like some bands appeared from nowhere, like Physis, for example, that came from DiCaprio's Revenge, or Fernalia.
Well, Physis, which is basically the
DiCaprio.
Ecadon.
Yeah, Ecadon. Yeah.
Noctumbra.
Noctumbra. Also. Yeah, there were like 3 or 4 bands in Sevilla
Okay.
that were like pioneers, let's say, because that was unknown here. And it was when I started high school when it started like to move people, you know? Like, for example, someone told me, hey, my mom is playing in Lolander, you know? And then we go. It
That's cool.
kind of started the movement, you know? So we are taking his position now, I think, because they disappeared.
Yeah,
Oh.
basically it's the same with the US. There was like a scene that appeared like in 2011, maybe 2010, and around 2017, maybe
16, I'd say, yeah.
yeah, it completely disappeared.
Yeah. Second wave then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are the second wave.
We are,
Yeah.
yeah, the same second wave
Yeah.
that we see in the US, the revival of the
Of the genre,
deathcore,
yeah.
Fair enough. Well, if you gentlemen can do me a favor as well, just for the sake of recommendations, that way in the near future I can go ahead and do some more research, possibly even reach out to these bands, reach out to these artists, see if we can bring them onto the show. If you could do me a favor and type all the band names that you just mentioned, as far as like what you
Yeah, for sure.
the first wave. That way I can kind of just add those names to the checklist and be like, okay, now I got to tackle the first generation of deathcore and death metal bands for, you know, the local area.
Yes, some of them I think
They disappeared.
They
are
broke up
inactive.
like way before that than Spotify. So
Yeah.
it's
Right. Fair enough.
basically, yeah, maybe there's something in YouTube like the
Yeah.
early days of YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you can find something in 2040p, maybe.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I
like
mean, even if
pizza.
it's just for the sake of like, you know, keeping those band names in mind, just like, you know what, remembering that first wave, and then, well, Heirs of Hatred, Chains of Agony, Cries of Saints, Bone Carver, all these different artists like being the next wave, then boom, bada bang. Just recognizing the history and the legacy, the history of all metal, all deathcore, all heavier music over in that area of the world. It's always fun for me, and that's really what makes the Anatomy podcast the Nat Geo of heavier counterculture music. So you did have local heroes, which is really cool, because oftentimes I've noticed that when it comes to like a band from the town that you grew up in, or maybe even a neighboring city, not many bands have had that experience. Not many bands have had that opportunity to really say, yeah, like I lived, or at least none of the bands that we've happened to host yet on this podcast have said, yeah, I mean, I remember when I was growing up and Suicide Silence was like just getting started. Mitch Lucker was like stomping his vans and basically breaking the stage. We were all caught off because they happened to live in, well, Orange County, California, right? Or wherever Suicide Silence is from. Not often do we have situations like that just yet. And that's also something also a dragon that I'm chasing per se. So you did have local heroes, or you had neighboring city local heroes, so they might as well be local heroes either way. Of course, technically, you know, Chains of Agony wasn't always Chains of Agony, but for the sake of asking it, were you in any bands or band projects before Chains of Agony, and what caused the fork in the road that had you depart from those projects? Or in this case, what made you decide to like change the name from, well, the first name to Chains of Agony? Because I remember it's something society, like Disparate Society or something.
Let's not say the name.
Fair enough.
Otherwise you can find
Like, don't look
Yeah.
for the music. Fair enough. But nonetheless, it's like, what ended up causing you to want to like draw that fork in the road and kind of rebrand, change the name, all that fun stuff? Was it like kind of personal, internal issues with the band and people involved in it? Was it just like the tone? It's like, we're not taking music seriously enough. Or was it just like the name was so cringy you wanted to move on and rebrand? Like, we got to ask these questions.
Yeah, it's the last one, I think. Yeah,
Okay.
It was so cringy. We were the same members in the end.
Right.
So we went to the We had a rehearsal room, we went with a friend that's called Oscar. Shout out para Oscar. And yeah, we were like brainstorming names. Like it was about to be called like Wings of Disease, like chicken wings. What the fuck?
Wings of Plague.
Yeah.
Wings of Plague.
Yeah. So
Like,
Oscar said, "Yo, what about Chains of Agony?" And we were like, oh, "Okay, man, now we're talking." Yeah. So that was the story. It's not something like special or something, like it was just a friend telling, "Yeah, let's call it Chains of Agony."
I mean, there's a funny story. Maybe Gonzalo wants to share it with the German Chains of Agony.
Oh yeah, there's a DJ called Chains of Agony. Like he's pretty but he's pretty dark, and I don't know, I'm scared of him because he like wrote us via Facebook like some years ago, asking us, "I will take legal actions," and I was like, "Yo, what the fuck? You're not called Metallica. We are not taking your name." Like like it was just our friend telling us Chains of Agony. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, like if you were like having some shows here in Spain, I mean, you won't be having shows here.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because it's very small, So
yeah,
if he was called, I don't know, Whitechapel, and we decide to call our band Whitechapel, I understand it, like that's shitty, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not even the same genre, not even the same country, not even a big, person.
Yeah.
Like because he's just one, and there was no point on changing anything.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's always, and like I feel bad for bands like Paleface who had to like make that last minute change from Paleface to Paleface Swiss because of like a Swedish pop star or whatever the fuck. It's like, dude, like really? You can't just let this other band also be called Paleface and like have them be two different genres? For me, it's like that's kind of the rule. That should be the rule. If you want to have a pop punk band called Chains of Agony, obviously at this point, Imperium is a pretty solid record. This is a pretty solid band with at least 1,200 monthly listeners. Like, it would kind of be obvious at this point if you're like, yeah, I'm a DJ and I'm also Chains, D Agony or something. It's like, stop.
What? Yeah.
Stop.
It's kind of weird.
Just call yourself Chains, like 2 Chains, that type of shit. Reference to hip hop, reference to rap, be somewhat original. And if you want to, it's always flattering for bands when you can say that, hey, we got our name because we were inspired by your first album. So therefore that we named our band Somatic Defilement and Whitechapel. Yo, that's actually pretty sick. Like, it's situations like that really connect musicians in the counterculture world. I know I would want to see a band called Somatic Defilement. That sounds sick as shit.
Yeah.
As long as they don't make an album called Whitechapel, that'd be kind of fucking stupid. But nonetheless, right? We continue covering a legacy. We continue talking about your story. Now, next, after covering your musical roadmap, after covering, a brief chunk of time where you're like, yeah, I skate, I just don't like ollie or kickflip because then I'll break my ankles and then I won't be able to go to work. I'm good. Let's go ahead and talk about your software development career. Like, how did all that get started?
I mean, I've been like working with computers since I was a kid, repairing stuff, like hacking Nintendo DS and all that kind of shit. So when the time came like to decide what should I do, like for a living, the easiest option for me, like really easy, was software developing because I mean it works for me. It just works. It's not something that I love, like I'm passionate about it, but it's just easy for me. So I started university. I quitted that third year, I think, and started working for a really huge company. And since then, I've been working like without even ending my university, my studies, So yeah, that's it. It's just what I do for a living till if at some point I can live by, screaming, that would be a dream, like I scream to a crowd of people and they give me money, what the fuck? That's what I love.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's
Cool.
it.
I mean, honestly, with that in mind, it's like you, at the very least, you honed in on something that you thought would be realistic, would be a good financial backbone, but doesn't require that much energy, that much focus, that much, it doesn't require that much. And then when you get into a pretty solid company over close to where you are, as opposed to like having to fly abroad, right, to find a bigger company over here in the States or somewhere else in Europe.
I mean, my company's from the States, but I work remotely. Yeah. It's
shit.
From the States.
Plot twist.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool though. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, overall, like once you find a good financial backbone and something that allows you to move around, like I said before, instead of just slumping over, just like I work a 9 to 5 and then kind of do a bit on the side. That's just, it makes life easier, right? It makes life less complicated. Oop, your camera went out.
Sorry, I had a call. I don't know.
Yeah,
I will put this do not disturb. Sorry.
You're fine. I thought you guys disappeared for a second.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, you're fine. No worries at all. So I mean, we've covered a lot of ground now. We really have. I mean, I could ask if you're a gearhead, if you like have any specific technology or equipment you use as a vocalist and lyricist.
I mean, equipment. I have my SM58, my SM7B from Shure, and Focusrite Solo. But yeah, nothing special. Honestly, when I record my vocals, I try them to be like as as clear and nasty as possible. I don't want like overproduction or that shit. I want them to hear my fucking throat cracking.
And that we do. That I do. I know that for goddamn sure. Listening to the album this morning. Sweet. And there's no like dream, there's like no equipment that you're looking to acquire that you haven't yet, no toys you're wanting to get?
Not really. I think that when you become a professional, there are tools that makes your life easier, but it's not the point right now, because I go to a gig and I can sing to whatever mic I have. So equipment, I think some people use it as an excuse, kind of, because okay, you have a guitar of 3K euros, okay, or dollars, but you don't know how to play. You sound phenomenal with your equipment, but you don't know how to play. Like, buy a 400 euro guitar, shred it, and then buy your expensive equipment.
Slowly build up.
Yeah, exactly. So some people use it as an excuse because they sound like shit, basically. And that's reality. I've found so many people like that. So I don't need that much, honestly. I prefer focusing on sounding how I sound, and a mic of 100 euros will make me sound pretty decent, I think.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Like, honestly, I have the exact same setup as you do. I have the Scarlett Focusrite. I have a cloud lifter amplifier thingy for the Shure SM7B, pop filter. I got the mic crane. Boom. Like, as a YouTuber, as primary vocalist, don't really need anything more. So there you go. Question 5 would be, what lessons have you learned as a person or a musician up until this point? And how do those lessons drive you? Or how do you think they could apply to others trying to accomplish what you have so far?
Okay, so first one would be patience. I'm a really impatient, should I say? Impatience, like really right now people. Like, I want this and I want it now. Music have teach me that. Also, like continuity, like como digo, continuidad, like I don't know the word, but yeah, doing the same shit like every fucking day because I have to. and
Being
not because
consistent.
I feel. Yeah, exactly. So that's a good learn. And other than that, like social abilities, like yeah, I learned that in terms of socializing, there are many rat people in the world, and yeah, music has like opened my eyes to know more people and new people, hang out with them, like just being social, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Music has helped you be more comfortably extroverted.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom. Sweet. Let's see. And last question for you would be, and this is not really a question, but what I want to do is pluck off of you either 5 artists, albums, singles, or people that help push you to be the Gonzalez of Chains of Agony that you are today.
Okay. First one I think would be Cannibal Grandpa / Bone Carver, DR Diary, first album. That shit, I mean, changed my life. Second one would be Infant Annihilator, like all the albums. Like it ticked my head, like wow, exploded.
Yeah.
Maybe Bill Jarta also. Bill Jarta, I really love them. One of my top 5 bands, obviously. That's 3 bands. Maybe The Last 10 Seconds of Life, obviously, because they introduced me to that kind of heavy shit. And yeah, let's say Fran, who was the singer from My Mom Dance Mosh, like the first deathcore band here in Sevilla. We became really good friends, and he pushed a lot for me to become a vocalist, and you know, and try hard it, you know. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I do appreciate you providing the 5 character slots. And now, Rafa, it is your turn, good sir. Same way that we did with Gonzalez, what I want you to do is go as far back as possible.
Yeah.
And basically tell us everything there is to know about your journey as far as becoming the father that you are today, the bassist that you are today, and more specifically, the bassist for Chains of Agony. And if you have any other things that ended up occurring along the way, maybe hobbies, maybe forks in the road that you thought would, well, up until this point, just the slightest changes, you could have like got into different careers or something. Tell us all about that.
Okay, so I think we can go to my teen years because, well, before that, I was never into music really. Probably it was the subject I scored the lowest in school in general. But probably when I had like when I was like 15 or 16 maybe, I started hanging out with some guys who were like the geek ones in the class in class. I also was friends with the football, the soccer ones. So I normally listen to mainstream music. So as I said, not really into it, just the mainstream music. But I started hanging out with the other guys. I was into most of the things we were into, so we really got on really well. And yeah, we started the fall into the hills.
Yeah.
With System of a Down, Linkin Park, the standard way of going through, from rock to the most
Extreme
extreme
metal.
horrible metal. And so yeah, we started with Metallica, Linkin Park, System of a Down, the good era all of that. 2010, 11. Most of them just stayed there with hard rock, etc. But me and another guy started listening to more like metalcore, more new metal. For example, in my case, Slipknot, mostly. Yeah, Limp Bizkit also. And yeah, then metalcore, the basic metalcore of the era. We planned to start a band. In fact, we started the band, but we never really have like a final lineup or something like that. So we never played live. We made music quite similar to Miss My Eye and these guys who disappeared completely.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had like this band called Seppuku. We never did like basically anything. We just looked for a lineup and then just disbanded. Finishing high school, that guy and me just had a discussion. We basically fought each other, and we never hung out again. So basically, we just broke our relationship completely. I found a girlfriend, my first, stable girl. We were together like 4 years. I entered the university. I was about to become an industrial engineer, but I dropped after 2 years. So I started studying like robotic engineering, but I finished, and I started to love coding. So then I started my university degree in IT. We split up with that girl, and yeah, probably I well, in terms of music also, just to recap a little bit, I was more into deathcore at that point. Maybe we were talking about 14, 15, maybe 2014, 2015, more into As Blood Runs Black. Yeah, I'm probably
He's a freak. A fucking freak of As Blood Runs Black, man.
Yeah, I have listened to their albums like for hours and hours. Yeah, also, I think Job for a Cowboy, that era in general, Job for a Cowboy, Whitechapel also. So, yeah, I didn't, in fact, we didn't have any hardcore scene here. So we never got into hardcore in general in Seville. Even Gonzalo can say that there was no hardcore bands here. Maybe some punk bands.
Yeah, but old school.
Yeah, and mostly north of Spain. So nothing really here in south of Spain. We're almost North Africa.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it. I also got into orchestral music, Two Steps from Hell, and these kind of people. The epic orchestral music. Then I learned about Born of Osiris. Also, a lot of prog metal, like Periphery, Tesseract, all of them. In fact, I was most into prog metal than deathcore, but I restarted listening to deathcore when I joined Chains of Agony, which was when I restarted university for studying IT engineering. So I'm now there again. I joined Chains of Agony. I was now single. I used Tinder a little bit. I don't regret saying that. I mean, it was useful for me. So there's no point on not telling that. And yeah, we started with Chains of Agony. I also, as I said, from that time I started with a band. We made basically rock. It was, I don't know how to say it in English, but we made we modified the lyrics to be like for science. So it was a pretty stupid rock band. I mean, yeah. But it was fun. We had fun. We didn't really have to be good at what we did. So yeah, that was it. I was called by Alberto, who is my cousin. We didn't talk about that, but yeah, I know him since he was born.
I would only hope.
Yeah.
And yeah, he told me they were looking for a bassist. I joined them. As I said, relearned how to play because there was before joining the rock band, I basically quit playing bass for, I don't know, maybe 4 years. My projects just went to nothing. I tried to join some of them, but like everyone, it finishes in the trash can, basically.
Right.
So yeah, when Alberto called me, I wanted to try. He sent me the tabs written in a paper, basically in a sheet. And yeah, I started learning the songs. And since then, I have been with them. I met my wife. We married after some years of being together. We made a baby.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I'm trying to spend most of the time with my baby and with my wife.
Yeah.
And my spare time, what's left in the day, basically focusing on Chains of Agony. I don't really have time now to spend on any hobbies, even though I like playing soccer, but it's almost impossible right now. Also, my knees are not as good as they were 2 years ago. And yeah, that's basically it. That's my life, I think.
I think he says. Fair
Can
enough.
you tell us how you fucked your wife?
No.
No.
But they were like 3 seconds, really, really intense 3 seconds.
He said the dance of the gods only lasts, it didn't even last 3 seconds. That's crazy. That's crazy. No, that's
the last 3 seconds of life, kind of. Yeah.
The last 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Add 7 more. Fair enough. All right. So, I mean, really, you skimmed through most of the questions that I would usually have to like ask and then have people answer. So that was, I appreciate that. You have to be a gearhead. If you're a bass guitarist, you have to be a gearhead. What's your setup? What's your setup?
I mean, I'm not like the guy who knows everything or something like that about gear,
Right.
because I just look for something that makes me sound good and clear, let's say. I'm currently just using a Dark Glass Alpha Omega. That's basically it. Also, a noise gate just to avoid the hiss of the bass. When I joined Chains of Agony, I was basically had no bass. I mean, I had a Harley Benton, but that's the same as nothing, I would say. In fact, I played with a borrowed bass. So yeah, and I bought a second-hand LTD B206, which is a 6-string bass.
It's huge, man.
Yeah, it's
I'm
really
sure.
heavy.
Yeah, very, very heavy, whether John radically or just with its actual weight. Like,
I think I weighted it, and it's probably like 5 kilos. So
In pounds.
I don't really.
Yeah,
I
they
don't
measure
know.
in pounds, I think. Yeah.
But yeah, pretty heavy. So when I'm on stage, I mean, it's a huge deal to move like with that surfboard.
Yeah.
And yeah, I found a really cheap option here with this bass. The guy who was selling this put it in basically half the price it was before. I think it now costs like 3 times more than I bought it. So pretty nice deal, I think I got. And yes, since then I have been working with that one. I'm planning to upgrade it, but having a family doesn't help.
yeah,
In
no,
terms of saving money for gear.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's going to cause delays.
yeah, and that's basically the noise gate and the distortion pedal, because I mean it's like mandatory for deathcore.
Right. So you definitely would prefer distortion pedals as opposed to just like playing clean bass in a deathcore band then.
Yeah, I mean because they break into the mix way better when you play the higher strings,
Right.
It sounds like more metallic.
Crispy.
And
yeah, it's crispy.
Yeah.
Crispy is the word.
Yeah.
Right, crispy.
yeah,
Very,
crunchy,
very true.
and
Cool.
Yeah, that's all I have
Okay.
in terms of gear. Yeah.
Well, same way that I ended up asking, I guess it's because I'm like very, very tired. I don't want to say your name wrong, but Gonzalo.
Rafa.
Yeah.
Well,
R-A-F-A.
right. I was gonna
That's
be
it.
like the same way that I asked Gonzalo or
Yeah.
Gonzalo.
Don't worry, man. Don't worry.
It's okay, dude.
Same way I asked him, right? What lessons have you learned as a person or a musician or maybe even a father, right? Because being a father is a completely different animal. I've gotten very close to it a couple times without spilling too much on accident. And how do those lessons drive you, or how have they driven you so far? Like,
Yeah.
how could they apply to others that are living a very similar life to you?
I mean, in general terms, it helps you, or it forces you to be more systematic, more organized in general. For me, it's just not possible now to like, hey, Rafa, we need you in an hour here. Come with us. It's completely impossible. I mean, we I now have a schedule, and you need to fit into it just to see me.
Right.
So yeah, I try to make time for also for my hobbies. In this case, the band, because it's not a way of living, so I need to consider it a hobby. So yeah, basically to be more organized, to be all the time on schedule. I think I was already those things even before being father, so it helped a little bit. I think I'm probably the most organized person in the band, probably.
Yeah.
Also the most insistent person in the band. So if we want something to get done, I will probably be pushing everyone to do it until they do it. They basically ignore me, but yeah, I try all the time. And yeah, that's basically me
Lessons.
as a father and as the father of the band.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And the same way that I asked him, what are 5 albums, artists, singles, or people that helped? Obviously, like with you being a father, I'm sure your kids, they just compel you to be better, right? They compel you to get your stuff together because you got to be a better example for them. You got to make them proud. You got to inspire them. But of course, if that's one of the slots, that's completely okay too. But what are 5 slots, 5 people, artist, albums, or singles that have pushed you to become the person, the Rafa that you are today?
Well, I was really inspired by Periphery 2, probably the second album of Periphery. Really good album. Just inspired to keep playing bass. Even when I had no motivation already, because, as he said, a lot of projects just didn't go through, and I didn't have more love for starting a new project, or that's basically it. Also, I really, really, really love Shadow of Intent in general. Probably you can see some of it in the album, because there are some references. Also, Born of Osiris, it's a good choice here, because I don't know the name of the album, but the one with that starts with Machine, with the song Machine. I don't quite remember the name of the album, but I really listened to that album a lot. That's 3 in terms of music. I also love classical music. I usually listen to classical music. Most of it are Russian and German composers from the 19th century. And I think that's basically as Blood Runs Black in general. Also, I haven't been so involved in the guitar part of the album, but there are some things that I made, and I tend to sound like them, because they are a huge inspiration to me. In my opinion, they are too underrated, just because they changed their lineup so many times and basically disappeared a few years later, but they are for me one of the fathers of melodic deathcore of that era. So yeah, that those are probably 5 bands or musical inspiration to me. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for providing those characters, as I'm sure that all of the fans, all of the monthly listeners for Chains of Agony, adding up to, well, 1,000, like 1,200 at least, I'm sure that they will appreciate both of you telling your story so far and telling everything that you think is relevant to your story in basically about 30 minutes, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. And well, in the near future, we hope to definitely host a different podcast session, whether during this cycle or your next major release cycle, whether at the premiere or a little bit afterwards, tell their story, and then, well, collectively have Chains of Agony in its entirety, all the different perspectives, right? All the different people involved. We want to, over time, tell the story of all of Chains of Agony. That way, well, we understand it as a whole, as opposed to the bits and pieces that complete it, right? We want it to be a complete picture. So, getting into the second half of the podcast session now, we have part 2, which now I'm forcing both of you to dematerialize, depersonalize, right? Now you both speak as Chains of Agony. Now, more or less, Gonzalo, he did end up providing the background to the band's name, which there's not really much of a premise behind it. There's not that profound of a meaning behind it, right? But after releasing the EP that you did, after releasing a phenomenal full-length record earlier this year, last month to be exact, that being Imperium, maybe there wasn't a reason behind the band name before. However, I would need to ask the both of you, do you think there's a reason behind the name that ties into the narrative, ties into the story of your full-length record and the idea of Imperium, an empire built from the ashes?
I mean, kind of, in 2 ways. Like the name Chains of Agony for me became family, because they are my brothers. Like I would be nothing without them. Like I really love them. Like I assume we will be like lifetime friends forever. And in the terms of lyrics, like from the album, it kind of like it wasn't forced to be that way, but it kind of fit the lyrics of the album, because of the meaning behind it.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I can go deeper or
right. And we'll be going deeper here in just a second, so don't you worry. Rafa, do you have a different perspective on what Chains of Agony means to you as a name?
At this point, I mean, I agree with Gonzalo in terms of how Chains of Agony for us is like the group of friends we are now. And also, I think it has like more weight. Let me explain. A band can just dissolve after an EP. At this point, we have like an album. I don't see the band like changing the name. For example, if we sign for a record label or something like that, just because I find it has some weight by itself. So yeah, like we are established at this point as a band, and I wouldn't want it to change.
Fair
because,
enough.
Yeah, that's like professionalized the band in terms of changing members. I think Chains of Agony wouldn't have sense if we changed the members
in the future.
In the future. So
that's something we don't wanna do. Like if Alberto or me or Rafa leaves, you know, like it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah.
Well, question 2, questioning both of you as Chains of Agony. What do you think separates Chains of Agony from other bands in the Madrid community, Madrid Spain community, or more specifically, the Blackened Deathcore community, and why?
I would say the way that we do it. You know, like not so many bands like hang out all fucking night and then 2 hours of sleep and then go up, go to the studio and record. You know, so hungover. We have actually we have like a playthrough of Nefila, like guitar playthrough, and that playthrough was recorded because I was living in France by that time because of work and all that stuff. So I usually came here like every 2 months. So when I came here, like we were partying so fucking hard. Like we went out, you know, get fucked up, and then in that playthrough completely like it was really funny because Alberto had to put sunglasses on, you know. Yeah, it will be released pretty soon, but I think it's the way that we do it and the way that we see the band. You know, we don't want to make a band like to success or to earn money or whatever, you know.
Yes.
We just make it because we love it, and because of that we love it, we are sounding like, I mean, not different, because we are not sounding different, for example, from Shrine of Malice, for example. Like we have the influence, but it gives the, you know, that little point that makes it special.
Yes.
I think, because there's a story behind it.
I would also add something that probably is not as noticeable in the album, but Alberto tends to write fairly simple melodies, but overcomplicated. So, for example, I saw a comment in the YouTube video saying riffs are
Basic as fuck.
Basic as fuck.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, if you saw the tabs, you wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's overcomplicated. Even if it sounds simple, it's way overcomplicated. So that was one of the problems we had to find a new guitar player, because it's basically impossible to play except
from him. Yeah, because if you see the playthrough, he's like this, like
like that's it. Somehow it makes us a bit different from other bands.
Sweet. I like that answer. It maybe seems simple on the surface, but then when you look at the tab, it's a little bit more complicated. It takes a little bit more homework to
it's like an onion, man.
What's up?
Yeah.
It's like an onion, you know?
Oh,
The
yeah.
layers,
The layers.
Exactly. Well, gentlemen, I think it is a fantastic time to go ahead and finally dig under the skin of what is Imperium. Now, getting started with this under the skin session, we enter ourselves into an imaginary scenario. You're in a library. You're not in a band, right? You're just looking for your next read. And basically, you find a book just like this. Pretty entry level, pretty kid friendly, you know, not a fancy little cover on the front. But imagine, well, the front is the album cover instead, okay? And that would be the album cover for Imperium. The logo of Chains of Agony is not even there. It just says Imperium on the bottom. And then, you know, author, I guess that's where the author name should probably go. And that could be Chains of Agony. That could be Gonzalo. And then you turn it over, right? And you have this small chunk of text on the back. This isn't exactly small. This almost covers the entire back cover of the book. But nonetheless, if you were to find this book and you are the author per se,
what would the text on the back say and why?
Okay, so before that, like I don't know what's the next section, but if Rafa needs to leave, I think at 12
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he has an appointment. So if there's something you wanna ask him, because the lyrical part is more on my side, like I'm the one
Right.
who writes the lyrics, and I will explain because he doesn't even know. So if there's something like in the next part or whatever, like we can skip this and then
I
go
mean,
through it when he leaves.
honestly, I think we should. I think Rafa should be good to go.
Okay, well, then it's
Okay.
perfectly fine. Yeah. Okay. So, what would say? What would it say? Yeah, I would say like I'm sick of the mind. For real, like the album, like it has a concept, and it's like overcoming a lost, basically.
Overcoming loss.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So this is a mourning process then.
What?
Is Imperium a depiction of a mourning process? Not like mourning as in morning night, but mourning as in like grieving. It's a grieving process.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, interesting. I like that. So
That would be the summary. Yeah.
yeah, with Imperium, then it would be a mourning process depicted as a great empire rising from the ashes in a once prosperous valley, now turned to ash, its rivers now turned to, well, flowing lava. And you can't exactly swim in the lava unless you actually just want to die. And I guess that's just a more melancholy take on a running river, is a river of lava instead. I like that though. That's cool. So, before we really get into the under the skins part and do the track by track lyrical analysis, I would love to go ahead and talk about the album art. Now, I'll go ahead and put it up on screen here for the sake of context. Let's see what we got here.
We will show you something related to this. Yeah. Yeah, it's actually funny.
Heard?
Okay, and we sent a lot of
we sent
pictures.
yeah, check it.
Okay, so
that was the album cover.
Oh shit, that's cool. Actually, that's pretty cool.
I mean, that was the first draft.
Yeah.
I basically drew it in your
in the rehearsal room.
Yeah,
like we were with the iPad, like what should we put here? Okay.
No, that's actually really cool. That's impressive. Who ended up doing that?
Huh?
Who ended up doing the first draft for the draft?
Yeah, I did it, but you know, it was really simple.
Yeah,
it was
it had the concept. Yeah.
No, it's really cool. I like that because I mean, of course, at the very least, I can appreciate, admire, and respect that even if, for example, the final album cover wasn't made by yours truly, right? You at least provided like good places to start, like a decent foundation. So I give you kudos for that. That's still really cool because I plan to do the same thing with my own album covers.
You should. It's like it
So
ends up like, yeah, it turned off to what we were looking for. Like if you present like a draft, you know, it ended up being so fucking sick because it's what you expect, but being done by a professional.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, the artwork is made by Ale Zielankevich, which is a guy from Belarus.
Yeah, he's sick.
Yeah, pretty good. In fact, it's not like a drawing, but a collage. So basically, everything. He does some image modification,
right?
And that basically
the art. Yeah. No AI, man. No AI shit.
No, it's actually really cool. I like that. Well, during the creative process, when you guys were first talking to your artist about getting this album cover together, of course, Rafa, he had the first draft that he did, and it was a pretty good thing to go off of. But why, like, what was going on during the creative process? Like, what compelled you to want to get a running river of lava, what seems to be just ashen landscape, a castle in the back, an eclipse with lightning emerging into it and like launching into different directions, a new logo. Like, what was the creative process, and why does this album to you guys scream Imperium?
Yeah, so basically, like when I finished like writing the lyrics, I wanted to have something in the cover for every single song, you know.
Okay.
So every single thing that you see there, it refers to a song of the album.
Whoa.
For example, the hole in the ground and the eclipse would be for, and you know, the little rats there would be for Possum. The river of lava would be Yakul. The castle would be Imperium. The monoliths there would be Parasomnia. Yeah, you know, you have something for every single song.
Okay.
So it was pretty difficult because we knew that we wanted like a landscape as a cover. And we had to fit every single element from a song into that landscape, and it turned out to be so fucking sick. I love this cover more than the album itself, you know. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I completely understand that. When you're able to bring all these different assets together, make them visual,
Yeah.
and then, well, make it seem as if they're all one thing, as opposed to separate pieces, separate assets combined into one image. That is creative genius. I can agree with that wholeheartedly. And I commend your artist for doing as well as he did, because, I mean, I would have never thought this was a collage. This is really cool.
Yeah,
So,
it fit fucking well, man. It's crazy how he did it. Yeah.
it really is. And I think I might have to look into him for some future work. I think that could be really cool, reaching across the ocean to get a specific artist that's worked with people I've worked with now, right, as of this session, and just see what he can do, see what he can accomplish. I always love collages. I love like paper mache collages. I love paper mache work. It's always fun. It's always fun to assemble pieces based off of like just newspaper articles and stuff and words, right? When like serial killers, they use like the little words, they cut them out.
Yeah.
I love that shit. I love that shit. I don't know why, not the serial killer part, but I don't know. There's just a lot more effort that goes into cutting individual letters out from a newspaper and then gluing them together. Like, you couldn't just type it out. Like, love that. But sweet. Love the album cover. Love the context behind it. I love that every single track, well, has something visual on this album cover. So let's go ahead and dig into the actual album, and let's start dissecting this thing song by song. Now, I always am a sucker for a good title track. You guys can hear? Can you hear?
Yeah, we can hear. All good.
Okay.
I
Good. At the end of the album or at the beginning, sometimes you need to start out strong. Sometimes you need to start out saying, hey, this is Imperium, or conclude it like a love note and be like, hey, hope you enjoyed it. This was Imperium, right? Well, this time you guys were like right out the gate, Imperium. So other than the context that we are already provided, right? That chunk of text that would be on the back of a hardcover book in form instead of an album named Imperium by Chains of Agony, by Gonzalo, etc. Are there any other deeper depths to title track as far as any lyrical themes, any messages that should be sent out into the universe?
I mean, something funny is that most of the titles of that album are based in some way of horror movies, like mostly Serie B. Oh, be serious, you know, like underground shit.
Okay.
Possum is a British like movie that is really, really fucking dark. Like, how do you say it? Like, evil, dark, like shitty wounds also.
It's not like a horror movie, but
It's like,
almost.
yeah, I think that's something. Yeah.
Horror movie.
Okay.
It's creepy. just creepy, man.
Digging into Imperium and stuff, it seems that maybe some of the lyrical contents throughout this entire album, sure, it's meant to depict mourning, it's meant to depict loss, the grieving cycle, but then also is meant to allude to different horror IPs, different horror films, or even just, you know, kind of darker themes.
Yeah.
So with track 2, digging into Possum a little bit more. Why did you decide to add a track named Possum to an album about grieving and, you know, just darker themes? Like, what makes Possum so special, you know?
Okay, because it goes from word to breath, you know, it's a healing process. So basically, the first song, Imperium, for example, it's like a compilation of all the other 7 songs. Like, it just turns into one, and that's why it's the first one, because it represents what you will find in the album lyrically. So Possum would be like something really, really, really fucking dark. Like, it's like describing the whole picture that you see in the cover. Yeah, that blackened sky and the hole in the ground, like the linings, everything. It describes basically what you see in the cover art. So it's something really, really dark. Like, it's like the feeling of being like in a place like that, absolutely destroyed, you know.
In fact, well, the vermin crawling out the hole, it's basically, you know, the idea of possibly,
Yeah.
Well, when you mention like the possum emerging from that pothole, it's like maybe even the earth, the ground below is poisoned because things are in such bad condition that
everything is poisoned. Yeah,
right,
everything
right,
is so fucked up. Yeah,
yeah, and maybe because usually rodents are compelled to hide, they're compelled to go underground. Well, if they're compelled to go above ground and flee, it's like, how bad are things around us in this image?
Yeah.
So that's like kind of the first impression I get, because I think of pests, I think of pestilence, I think of disease in more casual places. I think of famine because rodents and stuff, they eat human food. They go through our food, especially rats, right? Possum, I haven't really known them, at least the ones that we have over here in the
opossums, right? You have in America. Like,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I haven't had any issues with them. I've only almost ran over one a couple times, and I felt really bad because of a bonk, and then just kept on going. But it seemed to be fine because it just walked off the road. But I haven't exactly had any like bad experiences with possums, so that's also why I was looking to dig a little bit deeper. Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Is that also like, it's like, yeah, we have a song named Possum,
No, I did it before it.
Okay. And why did you get the tattoo then?
I just love them. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm scared of rats. I'm so scared. I have phobia of rats.
I mean, that's fair. Same reason that a lot of Americans have a phobia of American cockroaches, because things are fucking nasty, dude. Especially the bigger ones in New York that can like grow to the size of a cat. I'm like, hell no, dude, get out of my face. And then you have, what is it? I forgot like what it's called. I think it's like Rat King or Rat God, Rat Man. That's what Rat Man. Yeah, Rat Man. Yeah, there is a it's kind of like the Blair Witch Project. There is a found footage film of these people going into an underground society. And essentially the people down there, they worship this like genetically engineered rat man thing. And it's actually gross as shit. Like, they did really good with the SFX, and it's like or whatever, like its face is basically a rat skull and shit, but it's humanoid in some ways. It's really weird, but it's cool.
Sick.
Let's see. So with Possum, I mean, I think we've really covered all the details, all the lyrical commentary. Or are there other themes that we haven't covered yet?
Not really. This song just describes like the landscape, like the feeling of that sadness, fear,
Yeah.
everything. You know.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, in that case, we move on to track 3, which would be Wounds. Now, with the landscape, there are many wounds, right? It's bleeding because the lava lake, as opposed to it just being a fucking river where fish swim. Again, you can't exactly swim through lava unless you have some type of like whack-ass lava stone boat, and even then it's like a stone boat. That's not really how that works. So, why is track 3 called Wounds?
Well, once you have it, like the hole in the ground is for wounds, and it's basically what Rafa said, like it's identifying the problem and why everything is so fucked up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be behind wounds, I think, and that's why it's called Wounds, you know.
Heard. Okay.
Yeah.
Track 4, we have Yakul. Featuring, well, Fernando of Bone Carver. Shout out to the homies in Bone Carver. Why is this track called Yakul?
Okay, that's fun. You know Yakul, like, have you seen any Shihiro? Like, no, ¿cómo se llama? La película, la del viaje, Princess Mononoke, you know? The movie?
Yes.
Okay, so the...
Yakul. Isn't that the boar? The disease boar?
The deer, I think.
The deer, it's the deer, Yakul.
That's right. Yeah, Yakul is the god. He's the deer god. Okay.
Yeah, that's why it's called Yakul, but the meaning behind it, like it's called Yakul just because Alberto wanted it to be called Yakul. I don't know why. He's a weird person, okay? But I was like, okay. But the meaning behind it is like anger, you know, hatred. It's like, yeah, it's the feeling of hatred. Like this album is like going through a process, as you know, and in a process you feel different emotions, you know, by order. And that's kind of the meaning behind all the songs, you know. So Yakul would be for hatred, I think. Like that's why it's also like the most violent shit in the album. Like it has a breakdown that it's massive, and that's why I bring the Fer here, because he's a really good friend of mine. In the beginning, we didn't want any collaborations in this album. I didn't want any collaboration, but after thinking it, I was like, okay, Fer and Tyler would be so fucking sick here.
Yeah.
You know? And Fer, like, Tyler is more kind of groovy, you know, more flow, more like the patterns that he used.
Yes.
Vocally, and Fernando is just pure violence. Like, his flows are massive. Like, he's so fucking good for me. He's one of the best in the game. So I decided to bring Fer here in Yakul. And I think it fits really well with the feeling of hatred. Like, yeah.
Sweet. Well, I would definitely encourage, because I don't know about you guys, but I've been really, really yearning to see more like collaborative merch designs. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, Chains of Agony, Yakul, like whatever asset in here, right, visually speaking, ends up alluding to Yakul, whether it be like the bats right here or some shit. I have no idea.
It's the river.
Oh, the river itself. Okay. Yeah. So in that case, it would kind of be the overall album cover, more or less, because it would kind of be awkward if you just tried to turn the album to the left side, just like, yeah, there's a running river. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't really work, unless you, like, I guess, hired someone to do like a lava waterfall or something. That could be pretty cool. But what I want to see more in the future is like very similar to the Signs of the Swarm X Despised Icon
Hollow Prison long sleeve that they did, very, very limited, printed on Champion. Had like a more casual design that more or less alluded to the song name, had the song name on it, so yeah, cool, right? And then logo for both the bands, like just back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back. Like, I haven't seen anything like that since. And one thing that I think is good for marketing, right, is to, after your first lineup of merch for Imperium, having those two different collections. And I mean, in the future, basically, when I do collaborations with other bands and I have features, it's like, you better bet your ass there's going to be a collaborative feature merch collection, right? So it's like, there can be that long sleeve printed on Champion, basically exactly the same as far as the layout, not copying the actual artwork, because that would be fucking hollow and stupid. Don't do that, people. Don't copy other people's artwork. But the layout, right? The merch layout. It's like logo for both the bands going down both the sleeves, especially the horizontal ones or the box ones. Really just depends on what works best for the long sleeve. Having that piece that plugs directly into that single, right? But also contributes to a bigger piece with being the album cover. Do that for multiple singles, especially if multiple standalone singles or multiple singles alluding to the album are in pieces. Like, why not? You know, start creating more pieces that play into that bigger piece. Same way that this album does, really. Even if they're smaller details. Anyway, that's a marketing rant. I want to see more collaborative merch, and I know that I would love to see Chains of Agony X Bone Carver long sleeves, Chains of Agony S The Last 10 Seconds of Life, anything. I think that could be a really cool opportunity for you guys to invest into. However, only kicker is that I've heard that when it comes to doing stuff like that, the same way that you have to pay for the feature in the first place, and I'm sure you guys went through this process.
No, not really. Not really. Like, in terms of collaboration,
right?
For me, if you have to collab with someone, you know, it's because they add something to your music, okay? And I'm not a fan of paying like a bigger band, like to be in your album. Like, if he's in your album, he must want to be in your album. It's not a matter of money, and I do the same way. Like, if someone asks for a production from me, I won't ask any fucking money, you know. I just listen to the song and I'm like, okay, I'm in, or no, you know.
Right.
But I'm not a fan of doing that. At least, you know, I won't ask CJ McCready or Will Ramos and expect they doesn't ask me for money, because that's obvious, you know. Like, they make a living of it. But I'm not a big fan of that, and I know this is a bit controversial. I already know that, but I see this like I see it as it is. Like, Fair is my homie, you know, and if they ask me for something, like, I will do it for free, obviously. Gotcha. Because I want to help them and they want to help me, you know.
Right. I guess what I was alluding to is the process of collaborating with bands that are on a record label, and the impression that I've gotten so far is that to be able to collaborate with them, and especially for physical merch, usually you have to pay a slightly bigger budget for the feature first. Yeah. And then after that, to like basically be like, hey, this is a collaborative merch piece between Bone Carver and Chains of Agony. Well, there's a little bit more budget behind that as well. That's just what I've heard. That's all I was alluding to.
No, I mean,
there's a little bit more of a budget. You know,
completely makes sense. I didn't understand like what you were saying. So
right.
But yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So that would be cool.
Anyways, I will tell you something off recording. When the recording starts, I will tell you something. It's a little spoiler, okay?
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Track 5, we have Parasomnia. That was really good.
What is this one about?
Okay, so parasomnia, like the parasomnia is a state of, sleep. Like it's a
Sleep paralysis.
sickness. Yeah, it's like,
Literally.
well, kind of, yeah. But it alludes like to the way that, this is a bit more personal, but I used to sleep a lot. Like some time ago, I used to have a lot of sleep paralysis, and it alludes like to the moment that you have assimilated, like assimilated is well said. Like I don't know if you know what I want to refer to with assimilated things that you need to assimilate, and you wake up and see the horrors that are in front of you.
Okay. So I might as well just look up parasomnia just in case, because I would hate to misunderstand anything. Because the thing is insomnia, right? That's not being able to sleep. But you're mentioning like sleeping.
Yeah, sleeping and waking up and having horrors in front of you, like it's like a sleep paralysis,
Okay, so, quote, an abnormal disruption of sleep, such as sleepwalking, sleep talking, nightmares, sleep apnea, or nighttime seizures.
Yep.
Okay, so you've experienced this then?
Yeah.
Okay. And
so it alludes to that, like in a metaphorical way, like metaphor, like when you realize the shit that is in front of you, like the horrors that are in front of you, and it's kind of the similar way that how you feel when you have a sleep paralysis, or you have to. Yep.
Okay. And I mean, yeah, in that process, you're losing sleep, but the reason that you're losing sleep, the reason you're losing opportunities to rest during a grieving process is completely out of your control, but it ends up descending you into deeper and darker places, possibly that pothole, right? Yep. It's like, you're compelled to go into those darker places because you're like, well, I'm already dealing with all this, and now it's getting just worse and worse and worse. I'm losing sleep over what's going on. So, I mean, yeah, that's definitely a mechanic when it comes to grieving, when it comes to any sort of loss, any sort of mourning, right? It's always so incredibly complicated, and that's why it's important to be educated on these things, people. It's very, very important. Next track we have Nafila. Yeah, good shit. Really good shit. Which is, named after a prehistoric meter-long spider, which, not gonna lie, I would love to have one of them as long as they were tame, but that's not gonna be a thing, right? So, I mean, really, is this a track speaking on behalf of arachnophobia, or
not really?
Okay,
not really. The name just read it, but the meaning behind it, like it's like when you wake up and decide like to fight, or war happens, we are talking about an Imperium.
Right. So I mean, maybe Nafila would be the more primitive urge to like fight back during the grieving process and like, get back into gear and start moving forward.
Exactly.
Okay, sick. Yep. Crystal Carcass would be track number 7. Featuring Tyler motherfucking Beam, dude.
Yeah.
Laser Beam that he is. What is Crystal Carcass about?
Okay, so Crystal Carcass has a story behind, like, it's really, really personal, but it's like when you decide to get out of that hole, like that feeling, that shit, it's easy to fall into addiction,
Oh, I see.
So it's a song about that.
Understood.
Like it's like kind of finding the balance, I think.
Finding the balance, finding an escape, and just kind of getting on a clearer path, on a cleaner path.
Exactly. Yeah.
Understood. And then track 8. Well, we got an acronym. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the acronym says.
It's the secret we hold under abyss.
Too sick, boy. Oh, sick. That's actually a really cool track name. The Secrets We Hold Under Abyss.
Yep.
I like that. So, why did you turn it into an acronym?
Because it sounded cooler, I think.
Tiswa.
Tusua, yeah. We call it Tutua. Yeah. But yeah, this song is the final song of the album. It's actually the first one that we wrote.
Second one.
No, Parasomnia wasn't finished when we recorded Tusua. So it was the first one to be finished, and I was at the end of that process. So it makes sense to put it to the last one. And yeah, it's just the meaning behind is keeping all that shit on the abyss. Like sometimes you won't overcome some shit, you know. So you have to live with it, and you just have to put it under the depths, like, of yourself, you know.
Yeah.
Under abyss.
Fair enough.
That's the ending track. That's why, yeah.
Cool. Well, that will be Under the Skin of Imperium, the newest 8-track full-length record released March 5th independently onto all streaming platforms by Chains of Agony. Womp. That will be the Under the Skin session. Now, question 4. It's labeled as question 3. So sorry if that was confusing after sending that over. After conducting a lobotomy for Imperium, and after us concluding the first half of the podcast session talking about bands that inspired all the members in Chains of Agony, what do you think distinguishes Imperium from other iconic records relevant to Blackened Deathcore in your own personal opinions?
Empieza tú que te tienes que ir. He needs to leave, so he will start, okay?
Right.
So I think it adds like more variety in some way in terms of the writing of the songs.
Yes.
For example, it's not usual completely that Blackened Deathcore bands have like slower breakdowns. For example, like Possum. I'm not talking about the crazy part of the Lorna Shore songs, for example.
Yes.
But starting with a lower paced song, like Possum or yeah, like moving a little bit to the hardcore, like Crystal Carcass or
Yes.
or even Yakul. We wanted to create, let's say, like a portfolio of what we want to be.
What you're capable of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily want to stick to the Blackened Deathcore, to the melodic deathcore, or like make hardcore in the future. It's just we want to be everything all at once and nothing specifically. So
right.
Yeah, we wanted to have everything in the album. I would say like equally represented because more or less we find everything in the same proportion. And yeah, that's in general how we wanted it to be in terms of composition.
Yes.
Also, we added strings which were not present in the previous EP.
Right.
Yeah, because they are just epic. So we wanted to add epicity to the songs.
One thing I can say and kind of confirm alongside you as well is that another reason that this ended up becoming like it jumped onto that list with The Last 10 Seconds of Life, Boundaries, etc., is because every single song on this record it definitely was from the same band, right? You could tell it was from Chains of Agony, but there was no one song that was even vaguely similar. However, all of them seemed to interconnect with the title track. Like there was a certain tone, there was consistency in tone, there was consistency in the overdrive pedals or the distortion pedals. There's consistency in the members, and you can hear that. But what I really liked is that every single song was indeed different, and it hit you in a different way. That's why my face was hurting after doing the stank face and all that shit for so long, is because every song, like, I had to pay attention to, which I haven't had to do in a long time. So kudos to you guys for actually providing an 8-track album as opposed to 10 tracks of like basically the same thing, just an idea built upon from another idea, built up, like, you know, just building up into a weird mesquite tree of sorts. It was all different, and I really liked it.
I mean, there are some common points in the songs, like some melodies, some details that like try to bring all of them together.
Yes.
But at the same time, we wanted them to be really different because of that. Because otherwise, I think there wouldn't be like an appreciation of how different points are touching about a whole theme in this case.
Yes.
So yeah, we wanted it to be like more independent, but cohesive at the same time.
Yes, exactly. And I think you guys did an excellent job with those objectives in mind. Let's see.
And I will go with this.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll be a 1-to-1 from now on.
Right. And we'll go ahead and stop the present. We'll go ahead and stop that part of the call per se. But for you, same question, really. Like, what do you think distinguishes Imperium from other iconic records relevant to Blackened Deathcore, being that this album specifically pertains to Blackened Deathcore?
Okay, so for me, it's a bit of a different answer. Because being honest and rude, I don't give a shit, you know? Like, I don't give a fuck, like, if we differentiate from others or not. I personally did this album, like, for us, for me especially, you know? So there's no need in comparing, like, this album to any other album, because I don't care what other people think about the album, you know? I did this for myself, and that's all.
That's a damn good answer, honestly. Like, it's been a long time. I've been waiting for an answer like that for a long time. And, you know, I try not to be too much like a news reporter or a news interviewer by having questions like that. But to a certain degree, as a podcaster, as an interviewer, as someone who's like trying to pry and, like, you know, kind of poke the bear a little bit, but not too much, and being annoying as shit, be a little mosquito in the ears of many metal bands on a global scale. Great answer. I really like that answer. It's like, who gives a fuck? I made it for me. I made it for Chains of Agony and no one else. It happens to be labeled Blackened Deathcore because of the symphonies, because of the orchestra, and the really, really heavy elements that are very distinguishable track by track as providing the word variety, being defined by the word variety. But at the end of the day, I don't give a fuck. I like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
How and why did Imperium become an album instead of an EP? Which, this is a pretty dumb question, but I feel the need to ask it every time.
Yeah, it was because when we released like Ephemeral Existence, we decided to make an EP because of, I mean, not a certain reason, but as I said, like, we were fucking drunk and recording. We didn't have much money. We didn't have time because we were studying, every single one of us. So we did a 5-song and we released that as an EP. But then things became more serious, like after seeing that we were being called to play in some venues here in Spain and all that stuff. And we said, okay, let's make an album. Like, let's take it serious and let's make a non-drunk serious album, you know?
Fair enough.
Why. Yeah.
I like that answer. Okay. Well, Rafa is no longer in session.
Yeah.
And we appreciate the time that he spent. But now, we get to enact a little bit of frontman syndrome. And at the very tail end of the podcast session at that, what near future milestones, goals, like what's going on with Chains of Agony? You guys just released your album. It's been a month, right? But still, it's pretty fresh. It's still getting cozy in public domain on all streaming platforms. What are some milestones and goals that you guys have for the rest of this year that you're able to disclose, of course?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will tell you. Like, no one cares actually. So we will release. I mean, they are here for the music, not for the plans. So we will release 2 EPs this time. We wanted to differentiate a bit what Rafa said. That was that we are mixing so many genres in like just one album. So we are doing a death metal hardcore vibe EP of 4 songs, more like brutal, like the brutal shit, like breakdowns, blast beats, like the most brutal shit that we can do.
Okay.
And then we will do another EP of 4 songs of that melodic part, like being so epic, like obviously with some breakdowns, but we will be focusing more in the symphonies, melodies, like everything.
Okay.
So that's the plan in terms of touring and all that stuff. We cannot tour at the moment because Rafa had the little girl. And yeah, it's complicated. Like we want to bring another one like to play bass with us because as we said, like it doesn't make sense.
Right. Fair enough.
So there's no plan to tours. Like we have a couple of shows and a couple of festivals, but no touring at all. Yeah.
Okay, understood. Well, I do believe that will conclude whatever episode number this is. I literally have no idea. I'm losing track, and chances are that I will want to wait at least a little bit longer, schedule a session just like this with the other 2 members in the band, tell their story, and then unleash this episode after I kind of smash everything together. But
yeah, maybe like this is difficult because as I told you, like they didn't want to join this call because they don't speak English, like they don't even understand.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe for the next release would be cool, like just release this and we do the full length, like because after these 2 EPs will be a full length. So maybe that would be a better options because they don't usually they don't speak English at all. So it's a bit difficult. I can translate for them, but it would be a bit messy.
Yeah, and that's completely fine. The same way I did with agiomatic dematerialization. Of course, it really breaks down to what they are comfortable with. But that's really the nature. That's the reason I wanted to get that session done so bad, is to kind of like get bands and artists more familiar with, if they're not that prone to English, if they don't speak English that well, at the very least, Google Translate or their fellow bandmates who speak English a little bit better. And even then, like when we were doing the session with Agiomatic the other day, there were a lot of points really during the conversation where Roman, the guitarist of the band, actually ended up using Google Translate himself, despite speaking English pretty well. Like English is very fucking complicated, and I wish it wasn't my primary language, yet it's the collective adapted language of the earth or some shit. And it's like not even. There's so many other languages that are so much easier to learn. When I'm 24 and I'm still learning to speak English in certain ways, like that's bullshit. There shouldn't be more DLC after 24 years of learning one language, but whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that will be a great way to end the session. I do appreciate you and Rafa deciding to stop by. I'm feeling actually pretty awake, all things considered now. And it's not even the monster, but, kind of getting into the later hours of the early morning. This was a very interesting session. I do appreciate both of you sitting down, listening to Imperium with me. And ladies and gentlemen, and everything possibly in between, this has been Sean Cross, doing another session for the Anatomy Podcast, reaching across the world over to Madrid, Spain once again. Well, not Madrid, Seville. Sevilla. Okay, Seville. I was thinking it was Seville. Sevilla. That's actually so much cooler. So we start our chapter now with Seville, Spain, but nonetheless another city in Spain, which is so cool. And yeah, we will see you guys next time.